Crash Landing, the Sky World has been reached in Super PKR World. Unlike many of the worlds before it, this one is actually not much of a step up in terms of difficulty, with the exception of one segment, which we'll get into in a bit. Thematically, World 5 has stuff you'd expect, like airship stages, but also has a bit of a focus on rarely used power-ups, so look forward to that coming up soon. Now, with the gentle nod to an early Yoshi's Island level in the title, and the not too dangerous of theme that is Wigglers on tracks, you'd think the stage is not too bad, right? Wrong! Well, at least, kind of. The stage was actually not meant to be a big ordeal, but it stands as a highlight of a level that can easily push certain kinds of players out of their comfort zone due to its strict pacing in the second half. The first half, however, is actually pretty simple. The platforms themselves can be pretty dangerous if you're not paying attention due to an over-reliance on spike tops as tripping obstacles, but the main gimmick itself is not too demanding. I felt this kind of theme worked best using the new Super Mario Bros. Engine, as the kind of loose bouncing around that riding on Wigglers causes couples perfectly with the mid-air spins and ground pounds to adjust your falling speed accordingly. Plus it has some precedent with the giant Wiggler levels featured in the Jungle Worlds. The buzzsaws are about the only dangerous thing here beyond just delaying big jumps off of Wigglers for too long. After the gauntlet that was World 4, I wanted World 5 to start off with a bit of romping about. Said romping about ends right now, as we get to what is probably the hardest part of World 5 right away. The expected solution of this vertical segment is to race the enraged Wigglers on the tracks to the top, using them for extra height when needed. I specifically designed this with 3 approaches in mind. The fast-paced, intense way of doing the race as quick as you can. The slow, methodical way by avoiding the gimmick and just trying not to get hit with the propeller shroom. And the I really just can't be bothered way of just taking it slow and having to wait for the Wigglers to come back once or twice. Now, for the recording, I decided to go for the propeller suit route, as this is the most common way the level gets beaten, as most players are very uncomfortable with having to learn and perform an extended section quickly. This is fine, and there are even 3 total power-up boxes to give you a couple of chances. One at the checkpoint, one about halfway up the climb, and one in the reset door that has several entrances scattered throughout the climb. This gives you 1 extra attempt should you get hit. And if that fails, you can try one of the other 2 methods. With that said, the full-on race method will be shown in the extras at the end of the video. Just like what happened here in the recording, the most dangerous thing to watch out for when going for the propeller shroom strat is the Wigglers coming back down after reaching the top. Their timing can be very hard to predict, so it may not be a bad idea to stop and wait for them when you're getting near to the top. Once they pass by though, just try to avoid ramming your head into any enemies, and it should go alright. Naturally, this still takes an amount of memorization, but well, that's what the reset doors are there for, and I did say things were not going to get any easier. If I had to go back and change anything, though, about this stage these days, it'd be to add some zigzag to the tracks the Wigglers are on. While it would make jumping on them slightly harder, it would slow them down to make the race a bit less tight at least, and leaving more room available for mistakes. "5-2 continues this world's habit of building stages around certain power-ups, while it was more loosely so in 5-1 with the propeller shroom being more just an alternate strategy. 5-2 features a new one front and center. The Pea-Balloon from Super Mario World is back! Really? This one? Of all power-ups? Okay. But look! They made it way better now. It goes a lot faster, and you can actually steer in 8 directions rather than having to constantly fight slowly floating upwards. One major recommendation I can make when it comes to steering this thing is to use the analog stick. I know for many a person, using an analog stick in a 2D game may feel really unnatural, but it feels really comfy with this specific power-up. I guess it's kind of similar to old games where you were steering aircrafts with a joystick. Now, Super PKR World does expect you to get acquainted with this thing pretty quickly. The start of this section has no threats, so you can get used to steering it. But after that point, out comes the Goombas and the Buzzsaws! And still though, much like 5-1, this area features multiple reset doors should you lose that P-Balloon, rather than being like the multitude of Super Mario World ROM hacks that kill you instantly for daring to get hit once with this stupid thing. I mean, I could do that too, but that's a difficulty spike that has to wait a couple of worlds yet. Either way, this first half is the likely sticking point for this level should people have difficulty steering the P-Balloon. It's a pretty fun power-up, but due to its extremely versatile mobility, it does tend to only lend itself to a select few level types. It does make for some really fun multiplayer content via P-Balloon race courses though. Just, yeah, don't expect that to work well online unless everyone has good internet and an Ethernet adapter, cause you know, Nintendo! The second half of the level is where the game will start killing you for getting hit, as now it expects you to be pretty comfortable with steering the P-Balloon. This felt like a good curve to me, with the first half being somewhat lengthy to necessitate comfort with the controls rather than luckily stumbling through once. The ending segment is pretty safe, however, so if you catch a buzzsaw, the only thing you'll be missing out on is a one-up from the goal. Of note, earlier I also forced the player to experience what happens when you get caught in a twister with the P-Balloon before throwing a threatening one in there. Small moments like this to demonstrate an obstacle safely are a pretty important concept for any element combinations that are probably a rare sight like this. That's it for 5-2 though. This is one of the world's simpler stages conceptually, so it ends up being pretty quick and fun for anyone who likes the P-Balloon power-up. This stage. This may be my favorite in the whole Super World from a purely flavor standpoint. The concept itself is simple. The coin ship from Super Mario Bros. 3 is sick of constantly getting looted. So while the level starts out identically to that bonus stage, suddenly the resistance starts to ramp up harder and harder. Any looting done this time around is going to require some effort. Now, I want to talk briefly about the coin ship itself, as getting one of those to appear in Mario Bros. 3 was some nonsense. It took the whole thing with matching numbers in the 1s and 10s digit of the timer at the end of the stage and made it even rarer! Now, on top of those matching digits, you also need to have the 10s digit of your score match the same number, which gets especially tricky due to your remaining time at the end of a stage giving you more points. What's that? Still not rare enough? Well, guess what? It also only works in a world that has Hera Brothers on the map, as it transforms one of those into the coin ship. Pretty ridiculous, yeah? With all that said and done, the stage itself. Custom auto-scrolling is something Super Mario Maker 2 added, and it's a blessing for making a very Mario Bros. 3 airship stage like this. The direction changing allows you to mix and match vertical and horizontal obstacles in a stage, rather than having to resort to swapping between the main and sub-worlds to get the same thing done. Definitely helps things feel a bit more authentic. Though speaking of authentic, I deviate a bit from that here, as Mario Bros. 3 actually had no checkpoints at all. The upcoming section is a boss rush, and I see no value in not giving the player a checkpoint before it, as it'll just make the stage needlessly tedious. Speaking of the boss rush, though, I've purposely hit a star power-up in a very Mario Bros. 3-esque position to allow the player to cheese most of it for being a little more thorough with their exploration. If you let it bounce to you at the door, you can get a precious extra couple of seconds out of it. Now, it feels like the star will never last quite long enough to take out every single boss with it, but it'll at least get you as far as taking a Boom Boom. I am curious if we can get every single one of these remaining rooms done with optimal movement, but I'll leave that for the experts that go around setting world records on as many stages as possible. Overall, this ends up being one of the easiest bonus stages in the Super World. But I'm okay with this, simply due to it making more sense for this stage to be in World 5 thematically. It just would never have the same kind of cohesion anywhere but the Sky World. Oh hey, another power-up based stage! This time around, we have a power-up that was not new to the World's update of Mario Maker, but I still had yet to use this in a level. Link's Sword! The power-up transforms you into Link and grants many abilities unique to him, such as his sword, bombs, arrows, shield, and even a couple of special techniques like a Pegasus Boots dash and a sword-enhanced ground pound. The Link power-up is extremely versatile. Bombs can destroy blocks and hard blocks, arrows can trigger P-switches and POW blocks, the shield can deflect some objects like spike balls, and the Pegasus dash and ground pound even defeats some enemies normally resistant to standard jumping, such as all these different Mecha Koopas. The downside to all of this, of course, is the fragility. One hit and your superpowers are super toast. With the sheer amount of power available as Link, I like to take a bit of a different approach with level design. It compels me to make a more adventuresome stage, really necessitating exploration and a little backtracking here and there. This is decidedly not traditional in the Mario sense, but it does fit with Link at least. Now, designing a stage like this can be very tricky for one very important reason. The Link state being a power-up and not a complete mode change. Thus, for every puzzle I created in this level, I needed to make sure that while it was easy for Link to solve the problem, it must still be possible for Mario to do it too. Alternatively, you can always just have an infinite sword source somewhere in the level, but I liked the idea of a design where being Link simply made the obstacles easier to get past rather than being necessary. Now, of course, the secrets in this stage frequently require Link, but that's optional content and reward for not taking a bunch of silly damage like past me is doing because they're a buffoon! I do really appreciate the small flavor changes this power-up gives, though, such as changing music to the overworld theme and the dungeon theme depending on what style of map you're in. This stage also let me introduce another element that will be showing up more frequently from here on out: the Mecha Koopas. These resistant little blighters come in 3 flavors: Chompy Green, Homing Red, and Laser Blue. The green ones are exactly as they were in Super Mario World, while reds have a missile that can destroy blocks, and blue ones fire a large laser, which can also destroy blocks, if the Mecha Koopa is giant-sized, that is. There are not many elements out there that would mesh perfectly for allowing Mario and Link to traverse the same obstacles, but the Mecha Koopas ended up being a great fit. While it can take some cleverness and being careful not to accidentally kick a needed enemy down a pit, Mario's able to handle everything short of this bonus room, which has its music swapped to an 8-bit version of the horse race theme from Ocarina of Time. Okay, I like that touch a lot. Good job, you goofs. Honestly, I'd love to see more stages designed in this style. Normally when the Link power-up is introduced into a stage, it has to be kept the entire time, or it's just used for one quick stunt before being just as swiftly removed. Or is simply frivolous altogether and is just meant for making combat easier. While I didn't go out of my way to play a lot of random Mario Maker courses, I never saw another one that went the puzzle elements that are easier with Link, but doable as Mario approach. Is that a challenge, perhaps? Not necessarily. I just like to see what sorts of creativity people can come up with if they set their minds to it. Not everyone's going to be able to come up with new ideas or show off unique interactions or whatnot, so sometimes a preemptive idea can be needed to spark something. Even a lot of my stages in this super world have some basis in something else. Alright, this section I had to address. So this is one of those things that could have been a lot better with about one less enemy. The idea here is to scroll the earlier pipe onto the screen, so it drops a pound block into a claw, which then delivers it down to this drop-off point at the bottom. The smart way to go about this is to backtrack across the cloud platforms to safely wrap around to the landing point below, taking out the Hammer Brother with an arrow or something to get him out of the way. Or you can be like me here and recklessly jump down, inevitably get hit, and then struggle terribly to hit the pound block with a shell because of the incoming artillery. Needless to say, hitting the pound block with Link's sword, or if you're in the position correctly for it, either's head is much, much easier. Speaking of much easier, while I do like the uniqueness of this particular setup with the Mecha Koopa and Claw, timing a Link Bomb well to destroy this wall instead is much less hassle. Otherwise, you need to carefully kick the Mecha Koopa into the Claw, hiding off to the right so it does not drop out, then bait it into launching its laser at the blocks. And this can take a few attempts, so keep at it, you'll get it. Past me was a bit determined here to take out the commanding Goomba of this laser firing squad. I mean, you can get a one-up and a totally non-Dragon Coin for coming up here, so it could be worth. The next section is one final cleanup for the stage. If you're not Link, try not to disturb the flying laser mecha at the bottom, as it's your key to escaping. The pound blocks are set up in a way that Link can quickly shoot at them with his bow from the center platform, so abuse that for some extra speed if you can. Different as this stage is, I do look back on it rather fondly. World 5 is really being super solid, Raging Wiggler climb aside. What could be next in store? First of all, though, if you want the top of the flagpole at the end of this level, you need to still have your Link power-up, as he's the only one that can reach this P-switch to activate the blocks. So we'll see ya in 5-4. Well, it only makes sense for the Sky World to end with an extremely Mario Bros. 3 style airship stage, yes? Even with the bonus stage already being one, I really wanted to do another one that went all in on that distinct thematic. Mario Bros. 3 airships always had this certain flair to them. It wasn't just bullet spam, but also unique obstacles that were pretty much only dangerous because of the slowly encroaching auto-scroll. I even tried to replicate some of those obstacles, like with this patch of icicles. The idea for this one is to imitate those awful nuts you had to repeatedly jump on to spin back in the Bros of the Third. The icicles being spread one block apart, mixed with how they fall shortly after being stepped on, forces a similar movement of slowly jumping forward. You could try to rush ahead, but then the auto-scroll stops you dead and you fall to your doom! The previous pseudo-dragon coin is particularly nefarious to try and get unscathed in this level. If you're feeling like a completionist or really need the money for one-ups, go for it. But I know exactly what I made there, and what I made is a dirty trap. Mario Bros. 3 airships always had a very particular set of enemies to throw at you, really. You didn't see much other than rocky wrenches and the occasional bomb. Usually it was just bullets and fire. So much bullets and fire. Of the lot, rocky wrenches are usually the worst due to how quickly they tend to throw their first wrench, which naturally prevents them from being immediately jumped on more often than one would like. I do really like this current section though. You can often choose between going over or under each segment, and each choice depends on whether you feel comfortable doing something or if you want to greed a few extra coins. Just watch out for bombs raining down from above should you choose the low roads. They come out unexpectedly quickly. Iggy here is a dastardly sort. Much like his newer appearances, he has an affinity for chain chomps, and comes charging in with one. Take that initial free hit while you have the chance, and try to lure him into jumping into the chain chomp in shell form, as if you can do this, it destroys the chain chomp and makes the remaining fight much easier. Iggy's definitely one of the harder Koopa Kid configurations Super PKR World has to throw at you, But it's still just 3 hits and he's toast, so take him down and stop this chain chomp smuggling operation. With that, though, as can be seen from the icicles coating the ship in clouds on our way out, what comes up next is everyone's favorite world theme, the Ice World! What slippery messes will await at this next destination? Only time will tell. For now, it's time to take a quick step back and look at some extras from World 5. Alright, so first up as promised is the intended/fast strat for 5-1's Enraged Wiggler Race. If you like things to be high intensity, then this is the strat for you, as you need to rush forward as hard as you can to try and actually gain a lead on the Wigglers. You only need them for height early on, so the entire middle portion is all about gaining that time. And if you do make it, try not to fall behind at the final 2 jumps from the Wigglers or suffer a sad fate of waiting. Though, with clever triple jump usage, you can actually make those last couple of jumps unassisted. So yeah, alternative strats for you if you feel like being a boss, I guess. But overall, that's how it's done. Just do it right. You know, that's all there is to it. Only other thing is the second death of this run. I did say that one Totally Not Dragon coin is a dirty trap, and thanks to getting hit trying to stomp a Rocky Wrench earlier, it got me. Well, probably more to come next time. Take care.